So myself, Sue got into it. I have undergrad in mathematics, went to business school, got my MBA after coaching for a little bit. Finance and strategy, I think you'll see that manifested here in this presentation. We've been using Smartabase here for about a year and a half. Really 3 main areas at the moment are EMR. So all of our medical data is in there. Big thanks to Tom, who helped us put that together last year. A lot of late nights doing imports and that sort of thing. We do a lot of training info, whether it's load management, on snow is very difficult to track, so a lot of just manual bean counting, as we call it. And then there's also a lot of feedback mechanisms, whether it's athletes or staff being able to reflect on processes, whether it's just a rehab or a specific camp. So a lot of two-way feedback. It's been really helpful for us, and I'm excited to have everything in one place and see what we can do from there. I will get into the presentation in a second, but I want to talk about the US Ski and Snowboard for a second. Let's see if I can get this right. 7 sports, 17 teams, 180 athletes. At the last Olympics in 2018, we had 15 of the 23 USA medals and 7 of the 9 golds. And as fun as it is to talk about, it's a lot more fun just to watch.
When it's time to start the show, not giving in.
This is the moment that we all have been waiting for.
I'm not giving
This
in.
will be the competition of your life.
Red Gerard set to drop in. And the kid from Silverthorne is in gold medal position.
Beats the back-to-backs to take down Ayuba. One more is going to be enough. Sean White takes the goal.
Jamie Anderson has had the best line.
So much improvisation in the air.
Jamie Anderson scored a minute 83, so the Golden Girl is in first. Down into the corner, does he have the double cross? 12-16, yes! Back-to-back gold medals. One last time in the Olympic downhill. Lindsey Vonn crosses the line in second.
I wish I could keep going, you know? I have so much fun. I love what I do. I don't know. I'm proud. Proud to have given it my all.
She just needs to go really big, and Britta Sigourney is taking home the bronze. Welcome to the show, Chloe Kim.
All right, don't cry.
Fred just needs to pump up his amplitude. Look at the size of that first hit.
Nick Yepper taking home silver for Team USA.
Oh man, back straight into second place.
Hanging on to the line. A giant slalom gold for Michaela Schifrin and Pyeongchang.
Yes! Jesse did it! Delivering a one-point moment that will be etched in U.S. Olympic history!
My Olympic journey may end today, but theirs is just getting started.
So I was lucky enough to be at a few of those medals. What I kind of view my job as is I manage all the data that's around the athletes. So I don't generally deal directly with the athletes. That's what I kind of view the coach's job as. So I try and create data, give them tools that allow them to do their jobs better. So I feel like whenever there's a good performance, I have like a small piece of that, and that is awesome. If you haven't ever been up to a snowboard competition and seen a half pipe, I hadn't been actually until this year, and I will tell you that the snowboard half pipe is about 20 feet tall, and when they air out of that thing, it's another 20 feet. So they're 40 feet in the air, and you think, yeah, they crash, it's just snow. It's like dead ice. It is straight concrete. It's crazy. I would highly recommend going to one sometime. Marcus, where are you? Yesterday during your dashboard workshop, talking about visualizations and design, I just had this slide in mind. I was like, oh man, that's not the best. I got to do a little better job, maybe take a few more dashboard courses. But anytime you have an organization you need to have a strategy and you need to have a goal. And really, your strategy, your goal needs to be defined before you have a strategy. So in business school, we looked a lot at for-profit companies. And for for-profit companies, generally the goal is profits, is to make money. So when you're breaking down a business strategically, you're looking at all the ways they make money and how they spend their resources to make that money. And if an organization is spending resources in an area where they're not making their money, either there's something wrong or they're doing something you need to be interested in. So before you define any sort of strategy, which is kind of what we're looking at here today, we need a goal. And the really nice thing about the U.S. ski team, at least on the performance, U.S. ski and snowboard, sorry, on the performance side, is the goal is very easily defined. We want to win world championship and Olympic medals. And we've done a pretty good job of that up till now, but we want to keep getting better. So when I first started 2 years ago, I thought, well, how can I get into this mix? We need to make sure that our strategic actions are aligning with our goals. So I kind of looked at the areas of opportunity for myself. To win a medal, what do you need to do? Okay, you need your athletes to perform at their peak potential. Well, that's pretty much what sports psych is for, nutrition, ski service, coaches. We're pretty good at that. We got that covered, I think. You need athletes to be developing, to be improving, the younger athletes. That's definitely what coaches do. And I've done that, and I enjoyed that, but that's not where I fit into the piece right now. In ski and snowboard, we need healthy athletes. That's a really big piece for us. We can have, some of our teams have as many as 40% of our team out at any given time. So that seems to be covered. But the assumption of all of those is that we have the correct athletes. So I wanted to take one more step back and said, are we making sure that we are selecting the correct athletes to accomplish our goal? So what I did was I took a look at our selection criteria to be on the team. There's a number of different issues with it, as I saw. First, it was complicated and hard to understand, not only for athletes, but for coaches, for parents, for pretty much all stakeholders. Pretty ambiguous. It was not really based on any evidence, some, but I think we could have done a lot better job there, and it was largely discretionary. We had a team that was picking 70% of their team based on coaches' discretion. So you can imagine the confusion that would give to athletes and the implicit biases that you could have from coaches. So I wanted to evaluate this process and present a way to do it better. So what tools did we have available to us? Well, when I go through this kind of strategic analysis, there's kind of 3 levels of it. And the first one is historical data. So it's basically everything that's happened before. The second one is any sort of regression. So in this case, maybe you'd be selecting athletes off of hair color, femur length, and maybe that's it. We're not going to have that for athletes that we're selecting. So that's not going to be an option for us. The third is AI and predictive analytics, and we are not there yet. Working on it, but we are not there. So what we had number 1, we had historical data. So that's pretty much what I went with. And I figured if the goal is to win medals, might as well start by looking at all the previous medal winners. That brings us to Hannah Kearney. You'll notice Hannah Kearney's name from later this week on the weekend on the agenda. Hannah is former U.S. ski team member. She is pretty much undoubtedly the top female mogul skier of all time. Bunch of medals, bunch of World Cup podiums, and she is firmly in that cohort of people who have won medals. So let's take a look at Hannah's career, kind of in a more graphical sense. So what you see here is age on the x-axis and world rank on the y-axis. And we are lucky in a number of our sports where each athlete progressively through the season and at the end is given a world ranking relative to their peers. And it's just based on, who won and then what was the percent back of everyone else, that sort of thing. And it's actually pretty accurate for almost all of our sports. So we've been using that quite a bit in the past couple of years. It's one of the advantages of having an individual sport. So you can see here, Hannah was ranked, I think, 50th at age 15, pretty quickly down to number 1 by age 17. Total phenom. Yeah, like I said, best skier ever. How can we use something like this? Okay, well, I told you Hannah was part of the aggregate. Well, these are all of the people who have won, women's moguls who have won medals. This is an aggregation. So there's a number of different ways you can aggregate this. You can go average, median, whatever. So if there was an average, this is the 85th percentile. So it's about 2 standard deviations above the average. So the way to read this is, if you are under this line, you are someone we would like on the U.S. ski team because we think you have a realistic chance at a medal. So at age 18, you can see the lines at, I think, about 115. If you're ranked 110, that's someone we want on the team. I didn't put out any of how the criteria is actually shown. It's like year of birth, 2002, you need to be under this level. But I think it's easier to look in this way. So we also have an A-team line. So the top line would be our B team. I would say these are people who have an opportunity to score a medal. We don't know what that opportunity in terms of statistics are yet in this presentation, but I will get to that. The blue line, the A-team line, for moguls, and we've done this for all of our sports now, is athletes who we think have a very good chance of medaling. So at the same age, 18, if you're ranked 40th, that's someone who we would look at to have on our A team, someone who we would expect to medal at some point in their life. So we know Hannah's good. Let's see how Hannah fits under this. Okay, no surprise. She's under both lines the entire time. She's really good. This doesn't really prove anything because, well, the best person should fit under both of those lines. If they don't, something's wrong. So last, I guess this would have been about 15 months ago, when I sat down with the Moguls coaches to present this criteria, these recommendations to them, we wanted proof of concept. No one had really done this in the organization yet, so we wanted to make sure it worked. So they asked me to look at a bunch of previous athletes, international athletes, current athletes on the team, just to see what happened. And we were pretty happy with the results. It was looking like it was lining up to about what we thought. But they also asked me to look at some kind of more developmental athletes, some ones that were outside the box. And just to give you an idea of the team, it's largely older athletes. And when I say older in this sport, I think low 20s. People who are more ready to be on the World Cup and medal right now. But when I was looking through the data, I noticed Kenzie Radway. And this was 2 years ago. She was 15. She was ranked 88th in the world. And she was our third best 15-year-old ever, behind Hannah here and Tess Johnson, who's one of our top skiers on the team right now. So I said, have you guys ever considered putting Kenzie Radway on the team? And they said, who's Kenzie Radway? And I said, but I don't know. Just like she's a name on a spreadsheet. And so to give you an idea, these coaches are over in Europe for most of the winter. So they don't have a lot of opportunity to see these developmental athletes, but these are the athletes who are feeding their system. So I said, take a look at her. And they said, okay. So a couple weeks later, they came to me and they said, we looked at Kenzie Radway, we saw some video, and she just does 360s. And I said, is that good? I don't know. I have no idea. And they said, yeah, it's fine. She's not going to be on the team, though. And I said, okay. But, now I was a little interested, and so I went and looked at some video for myself. So I have here 15-year-old Kenzie Radway, but as a nice comparison, I thought we could pull 15-year-old Hannah Kearney as well. And the fact that there's offspring in the background is good too. All right, so skiing looks similar, maybe a couple bobbles on the landings. Big props to Kenzie for doing a backflip. I gave Hannah some grief for that, and she alerted me that women were not allowed to do backflips in competition until 2002. So, okay, put me right in my place. That's probably good they changed that rule. So what happened? I wanted to follow up with this a year later. Kenzie ended up winning the overall NORAM title for the U.S., which is the one step below World Cup, and it's all of our best skiers who are not on the U.S. ski team. She did as a 15-year-old, and that automatically qualifies her for the U.S. ski team. She also met our year of birth criteria, which we put into place. And so all of a sudden, my kind of shot-in-the-dark recommendation has some validity. Now, to me, does this prove this method I've been using? No. This is a sample size of 1. However, perception, especially when you're dealing with coaches, and I'm sure everyone's dealt with coaches, is always a little bit different. So the fact that I had pointed this one skier out and this one skier actually happened to produce results, probably just kind of dumb luck on my part, added a lot of credibility with the coaches to me. And we really began to think, what else can we do with this? Where else can this kind of methodology go? Well, we put it in place again this year, and we started to see something weird happen. Okay, you can see Kenzie there. She dropped from 88 to 42 this year, but there's a new dot on the screen. Name's Kai Owens. Kai Owens is now the best 15-year-old mogul skier we've ever had. Not shown here is also Sabrina Cass, who's one of the best 17-year-old skiers we've ever had. So why did this happen? Some small part of me would like to think that previously the criteria was shown if you are, top 3 in a World Cup, you are on the team. Otherwise, it's just coach's discretion. But now, it's a pretty clear avenue how to make the team if you're 15, 16, 17 years old. So is there some incentivized behavior here now? Are we seeing younger skiers knowing what it takes and making the team because of that? I don't know. I have no way of proving that out, but I think we'll be able to look at that a little more closely over the years. So again, we started saying, what else can we do with this? Where can we take this? We know that Kai is good. We know that Kenzie's good. No one would dispute that. But just because Kai is ranked 41 in the world at 15, what does that really mean? Well, we had some pretty smart help this summer, and we actually broke this down further. So we see here is a chart which aggregates every female mogul skier who's ever skied in terms of their world rank at every age and what their inevitable result was. So, in the example I have here, going kind of left to right, if you have someone who's ranked 10th in the world and they're 22 years old, we know that they have a 10% chance of medaling in between 24 and 27, a 1% chance on 28 to 31, and after that, no chance. So their lifetime total is a 38% chance, which I will tell you is an excellent percentage for all the ones we've looked at. Now you'll notice here the data is a little bit lumpy at times, and you notice we had to bucket the ages and the world ranks, and we did this just because, frankly, there's not a lot of mogul skiers in the world. So you had to really work to make this process accurate. And I think the right way to view this is that this is very accurate because it is everything that's happened previously, but it's not precise at all. So if you're looking at any one time period, even just in between 24 and 27, probably going to be wrong. If you're using this for any one skier, probably going to be wrong. So that's not how it's meant to be used. How is it meant to be used? Okay. Well, I'll give you an example just so you can kind of wrap your head around this. This is the former U.S. mogul skier, Michaela Matthews. And you can see her age, world rank, and kind of corresponding probability there. So you can see as she gets older, world rank starts to go down, her medal probability goes up. Charts are great. Let's check it out on the graph. Okay, so there she is, through her teens, ranked pretty well, but still a 0% chance of medaling. And that's just based on everyone who's gone previously. Now, as she starts to drop, going into her lower 20s, her percentage goes up. Percentages will go down as you get older, just because simply you're running out of years. That's across all boards. And again, you'll notice the lines are a little lumpy just because of the buckets. Her world rank does start to go up there, and her medal probability would probably go down. But I'm sure that was because of one of the buckets. Age 20, probably an injury. How can we use this? How is this actually helpful? Well, we can break down our actual team that we have here. And again, this really isn't meant to be used as kind of looking into specifics, but just it's a good way to get a gauge. Kenzie Radway, who is the third best Moguls skier at age 15 we've ever had, has a 1% chance of a lifetime medal based on everyone that's happened before. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us it's friggin' hard to get a medal, for one. Really hard. It tells us that if we want to guarantee a medal, we need 100 Kenzie Radways. So that starts to change your way of thinking a little bit. Starts to, okay, if we need 100 Kenzie Radways, are we doing enough in development? Are we doing enough to help these young skiers around? Is there a way where we can improve Kenzie's chance even 1%? So we need 50 Kenzie Radways? That would be nice. Look at Kenzie against Athlete 7 here. Athlete 7 is a little older, but ranks 17th in the world. No one coming from the age of 27 who hasn't medaled yet at the rank of 17 has ever medaled. Now, does that mean that this person shouldn't be on the team? No way. And that's not my decision. That is a coach's decision. But the fact that it's never happened should lead you to start asking some questions. For instance, if this team has a quota, does this make you think about who should be on the team if you are up against that quota? If you're looking at both and saying, okay, they have about an equal percentage of medaling, 1 to 0, somewhere in there, and you factor in maybe athlete 7 costs you 3 times as much as Kenzie. Is that a consideration? I'm not sure. Again, these are coaches' considerations, but I'm giving them the tools to be able to make those decisions better. And then further, maybe athlete 7 has 3 coaches and Kenzie has no coaches. Maybe it's a good use of resource, of your manpower, to put a coach down with Kenzie, with Kai. And again, those are for coaches to decide. Let's see what happened. Well, we've been presenting this information to the coaches, and I think we've have them now well-informed, or more informed. They're able to make decisions, whether it's selection criteria or how team formation or way they focus their time on data-driven decisions, whether just on their gut. And that's really where we want, because these guys have hard decisions to make, so we want to give them the right ammo. Athletes have largely not seen a lot of this, but what they have seen is their new selection criteria, which I would hope from Kai and Kenzie would show you that there is a clear way to get on the team, and a little bit, better system there. So I think there's fewer questions. I think last year, even the athletes who didn't qualify for the team knew instantly because they hadn't met that criteria. It was less ambiguity. Refocused on youth development. We've seen now our Moguls team work in with the home clubs of athletes and the more development high school teams, just they realize how important development is. So they invite these teams to their camps. They work with them, they ski with them, because they realize that it's going to help them if the younger generations are better. Redistribution of resources. In this point, I mean coaches. They did end up putting a coach down with their younger skiers and really dedicating more energy there. So that's exciting. And then lastly, team selection. When we started this process, the question I asked, are we sure that we're selecting the right athletes? And last year, the Moguls team was chosen 100% off of objective criteria. Whereas I said previously, some of the teams had been using as much as 70% discretionary. Well, now I have evidence, and until I'm sure there's better ways to look at this evidence, and we'll continue to explore that. But with the evidence that we have, I am 100% sure that we're selecting the right athletes. And now we can honestly focus on the more fun stuff, helping those athletes perform, because I think that's what everyone actually likes. So we can start to look at those questions we were talking about earlier, helping the coaches, giving them more tools. Because ultimately, what we want is we want athletes like Kai and Kenzie to reach.
So it is Heil, Barkey, and Aiko Yamura right now, your top 3 competitors, with the #1 qualifier, Hannah Kearney, set to drop in. The 23-year-old from Norwich, Vermont, looking for a bit of redemption when she did not qualify for the Final 4 years ago in Torino. Your final competitor in Women's Moguls Final. Will it be Hannah Kearney or Jen Heil taking home the gold? Clean so far off the top, and watch this middle section all week, flawless. Ripping this middle section. So powerful, so tight. Oh, look at the hands, Johnny. She is in the zone. She is in the zone. Oh, and that's the heli she needed. She made one small mistake on that in qualifications and still was in fourth, and that's the fastest time. She has the whole package. The torch, the time, and the air. 827 feet of near perfection.
I'll save you the 2 minutes of hugging. She does win the gold. Pretty awesome. Follows it up with the bronze, I think, 4 years later. I think it's hanging in her basement right now. Probably want a little more out of that one. But you'll hear from her later in the week. Thank you for your time.